Yeah. All right. So we'll go ahead and we'll just jump right in, especially since I'm a little late. So everybody, welcome out to the Marketing to Win podcast. Today I'm chatting with Andy Vail, who works in agency life, and which I'm excited about because some of the conversations I have, there's people that have worked in-house. So from a business application perspective, there's a pretty narrow lane of how you're applying stuff. Whereas in agency life, you're working with. I mean, how many clients are you working with at a time?
Yeah, so right now, here at Avalanche, I think, man, constantly probably like 10,
Yeah.
over the quarter. And then, people will pop up and people will pop down, they'll be like, okay, just that's just how marketing automation is. As soon as something's set up, they're like, okay, now don't touch it for a while. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I won't. But yeah, probably a good 10, maybe 11 over
Okay.
the quarter.
Yeah, which I think is awesome because then you get to touch so many different applications of something like automation or whether, and so let's start out with a brief intro. Tell us about, what you do, who you work for, what you guys in agencies are a little bit interesting because normally I tell people, tell us a little bit about what you sell.
Yeah.
For agency, you're essentially selling yourself. So, and then helping other companies sell their products. So that's probably a little bit tougher to answer. So maybe just answer what you were selling for, like the success story that you'll share, and then we can dive in.
Yeah, for sure. So small appliances in the retail space is what I'll talk about today, and that's just one. And so they sell online. So it's an e-com client, and they are really pleased with us, and we do. I feel like they are an account that is very focused on results. So that's why I chose them. Other like if you go into lead gen, and I saw that you already had someone talk about B2C and B2B, but if you go to the lead gen, especially B2B space, there's different metrics that you can track with marketing automation. That is, leads, lead quality, how they're converting, the information you get. The funnels are a lot longer, right?
Right.
I have one client with like a 9-month funnel, and they just have to keep dripping them probably every week, just saying, hey, here's another great piece of content that's going to help you out in your space, and here's another a piece of content that we made specifically thinking about your segment, and automation does do that throughout the process. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I work at Avalanche Media. We're right here in Silicon Slopes, just absolutely loving it. We are a good size agency. I would say, over last year, we grew a lot. With COVID happening, everything, people are popping into the office saying, hey, I actually work here. And I'm like, oh, you're not the FedEx guy? Like, cool, yeah, you can drop off. And they're like, actually,
surreal.
so kind of interesting.
That is crazy.
And so, yeah, so super excited to be talking. Yeah, I've got a lot of different. It's funny, agency life makes you well-rounded by force, right? So like you're jumping into Klaviyo for an e-com client, and then at the same day you're jumping into Pardot for a lead gen client that you got to totally switch strategies, totally switch the thinking, and if you don't do that well, then you're not marketing for success, right? You're marketing cookie cutter, we call it, and you definitely don't want that, especially marketing automation, because what works for e-com definitely doesn't work for lead gen and B2B sales and nurturing people like that. So that's definitely one thing that I think agency has taught me is being able to see an agent or see a client and then think of a way to be empathetic to that customer that they're trying to get to. And so, yeah, that's kind of my first little thing, is being empathetic in marketing automation is hard, but it's well worth it. And that's how you market to win. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think, that's interesting because you have to be double empathetic to not only to the clients you're working with, but then their clients, right? So there's like two, I can imagine the amount of, the skill set of learning how to adapt to not only, business models, but technology, and learning how to apply whatever technology that they use to their situation. Um, Probably helps keep you grounded and focusing on like the right business results and not getting too caught up in the tech and like what, whether Pardot or Marketo is better, or I can do this right. It probably keeps you grounded, focused on um, client and customer needs first, and then you just figure out how to apply automation to their situation.
Yep, you hit it right on the head. Like, yeah, when I came in, when I came into Avalanche, I swore the world on one of the platforms, Active Campaign, and I was like, "This is what I know how to do," and I was humbled pretty quick when someone dropped me into Mailchimp, and I was like, "Okay, this is definitely not what I'm used to." And I went promising all these things that I thought you could do in. I mean, if you could do it in an Active Campaign, of course you can do it in Mailchimp, and it just doesn't work like that. Like you got to
Yep.
figure out what your technology allows, and that's actually my second one. So this is a perfect segue, is knowing your tech and how it connects, right? So like some people will have this old piece of tech. I'm talking like 10 years old. They haven't switched to the Salesforce Lightning experience. They're on the classic and they still want to use the newest and latest greatest thing for marketing automation. And basically if you lose track of your tech and what it can do, you're not on the path to win. You're on the path to get a really hard wake up whenever you want to like make a really cool campaign or tell your tools what to do. So I always kind of use an analogy of the buying a hoe but expecting it can do like the job of an excavator, like
Yeah.
just no, you're not going to be able to do that. All you have is a shovel. And so we're going to dig the biggest hole we can, but I mean, it's definitely not going to be like if you were paying for a bigger machine or a bigger tool. So anyways, I definitely like, that's another client talk I always have is, okay, what's your tech stack look like? What tools do you have? Are you on Shopify if you're on ecom? Are you on Salesforce if you're lead gen? And there is no right answer, but there definitely are better answers to get. And then but it's just like any other digital marketing position. If you went to a PPC person, like a paid ads person, and told them, "Hey, we want to run nothing but Bing ads," they would kind of scratch their heads and be like, "Okay, come on. Like, I mean, I'll do it and I'll learn and it'll be great, but I think it's the path to success and the win might be with Google." So anyways, some great segue into that. It was learn your tech, keep it up to date, make sure it welds together very well, and works.
Yeah, that's cool. I've got some interesting thoughts on that actually myself. So I came from, when I was working at Franklin Covey, had been used to Eloqua. So one of the beasts, right? It's known as like the most customizable.
Yeah.
And we were on a small team, so which is fine. There's quite a few small teams that use Eloqua, and we did an okay job. I was like a one-man shop with the automation side, so we did an okay job. And then kind of similar to like what you were describing, when I came over to Cloud App, had visions of big marketing automation system, right? Long sales cycle, nurturing, whatever. Well, in freemium SaaS, it's been a totally different story and experience for a couple of reasons. So we use something called Customer IO, which does email, and then we use a lot of like webhooks for our notifications and stuff. And but there's a ton of incoming data because we use product usage as our triggers for the communications that we send to help with activation, right? And at the beginning, I had wanted to I had this vision of like getting this big system where everything is like either in there or kind of integrated and all this stuff. And I've totally shifted my mindset, at least for where we're at, that this smaller tool that we use is completely sufficient. And in fact, it's better than some of these big ones, especially for us, because it allows me to move faster, helps us reach our, like, just several things. So I think that's probably one of the biggest first lessons that marketing automation people have to learn. Their first job, they get into whatever tech stack they're in, they love it, they see what can be done. Second job is where you really open your mind into understanding, like, okay, maybe the tech doesn't matter as much as my understanding of what we actually need to do with it.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. And the third thing I really want to like kind of talk on with that, and you again segue into it perfectly. So great job, great podcast, because is the process, right? So it's like, what's the process for success, and it should be customizable, but like it should have key points that kind of keep a consistent, I don't know, track of what we're going to test first, or how we're going to start this thought process and this journey. So when I first started here, I had a coworker show me a great podcast and website. It's I can't remember exactly what I'll send it to you so you can include it wherever you want to, but basically it talks about being a marking Sherpa. So like Sherpas lead you through the Everest, and they're really cool. I mean, they have like lower white blood cell count, so they can like withstand not having as much oxygen, and their bodies is like accustomed to that, right? They live up there, they're there. So that's kind of how we are. I mean, we're here, we're seeing all these journeys happen, and so we're accustomed to it. Anyways, we need to like look at the journey and think about the people we're leading through there, and being empathetic, really trying to get that down, and that process down, and keeping that process over and over again. So I think it's just called Marking Sherpas. It's from a guy in Florida. He's really cool, and it really changed my outlook on marketing automation, because I definitely, if I got in this role, probably without that podcast, I'd be like, yeah, let's send them an email every day and remind them who we are. That's brand awareness, right? But no, you got to put yourself in their shoes, and really definitely, like, in this age of like spam is no longer just a percentage that you see come in. It's a real, like, brand reputation is a real like thing, and people will recognize your brand as being one of them that doesn't care about you as a user if you're not careful using the tools that we use. So definitely a big one is to keep the process and like be super empathetic and be a marketing Sherpa if you can.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's circle back a little bit and talk about this. That the first one, the small appliance B2C kind of success story that you had in mind. Can you share more specifics on that? I'd like to dive back into there.
Yeah, for sure. So I pulled numbers from the holiday season, right? And it was a crazy time. They were just coming over, switching into, they did Klaviyo. And so that's the tool that we used, and it merged well with their website and all they sold, and it was really good. I got it right here on a doc. So yeah, so from that, they made $365,000 over the holidays, I guess you could say, and that includes we ramped up to Black Friday and kind of let deals happen where they happen, and made sure they were all clear. And man, it was awesome. What was really awesome to see that they had such a good list that was cleaned by us, like cleaned it, made sure like those are people, real people that are really receiving our messages.
Yeah.
And we had an average open rate of 22%, average click rate of 11%. So like we knew that whatever we'd put in front of them definitely would reach a real person would see it. And if we hit the marketing message right on the head, these people would buy. And I think we did a pretty good job at giving offers little at a time to build up to a big offer with these appliances on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and it worked well. It worked really well for them. They're super happy with it. In fact, right now they're not doing anything because they're saying, "Hey, let's they're ones that like just pop back down because they're like, okay, enough already. Like we're good job. They were done for a little bit." So it's almost like a longing. Like I'll see them come back and I'll be like, "Hey, long lost client, come on, let's go do it again." So super excited. They were a great team to work with, but we had that process down. Like what are our contacts thinking? First of all, our list is clean. Yes. Our tools are capable of doing the segmentation we want to do. Yes. Klaviyo, by the way, really great product. Love it. Good support, really good support. So yeah, huge shout out to Klaviyo. But yeah, and then basically taking our list, and I think the list size is like 300,000 people. So it was a huge list, and just pumping out those emails that really spoke to the personas and the activity levels of each recipient, right? So like, oh, you bought this? Well, let's look at this, or hey, we noticed that you really like all these emails that talk about a certain topic. Let's send you an email that is framed differently in that topic space, So definitely some really cool stuff happening on that end. And that's the only sad thing about them is that they're not doing it anymore. They're just kind of taking a pause. And but holiday season, man.
So was there a lot of nurturing leading up? So with B2C, I think the most fascinating idea for me in email marketing with B2C, with a product like this, like retail clothing, stuff like that, is the idea of nurturing, right? Because I mean, you can always you can announce new products. Maybe that's the idea of nurturing, because I don't have a lot of experience with this space, so I guess new products would make sense. But outside of that, like what other sort of preparation did you or their team do leading up to the big promotion within Black Friday and Cyber Week that helped ensure that you had that huge list that's engaged and like leading preparing it to be successful?
Yeah, and yeah, that's a great question. I think a product announcement is almost like the why we're reaching out, but behind the why is the brand reputation, right? So like giving you that content, giving you content after content of how you can use your product. I think of like clothes, for example. Like, okay, well, here's an outfit that looks good on this in Instagram influencer that you might follow. And they're like, whoa, I never thought about that. So it's almost like selling without having a call to action button.
Right.
They're like, that jean jacket looks killer on that person. And I love jean stuff. Like I have jeans, I have jean hat. Like, how did you know? And then there's this point that I feel like this brand is getting to, and it might already be there, but of saying, this brand gets me, this brand understands me, right? I like this brand. When next time that this brand talks to me, I'm listening. And that's that open rate, right? That's that open rate. That's that click rate of, look, this brand gets me. I am a part of this brand affiliation. And then saying like, okay, next time they send me an email, my ears will perk up and I will definitely like listen to what they say. Oh, here it is. I think of like I don't know if you're selling. Herschel is another company I really like to look at. Like, oh, they make bags, designer bags, and a whole bunch of like a slew of stuff. And it's really cool to see them come up with different ways to make content that's helpful for their people. And because of that, they have a good brand reputation and a good like brand following. And so when they do a product drop or Black Friday something, people are already listening. People know them. It feels less like a stranger's coming into their house telling them about something cool, and more like a really cool cousin, like pulled up in their super cool speed bike and just said, yo, look at what I got for you.
Yeah.
Like that's a different message than some random person going, hey, you want Tupperware? You know, like no one's gonna buy the Tupperware. Everyone's gonna buy whatever that cousin on the speed bike has. So
Yeah.
definitely brand reputation has a big part in that for retail. But then you switch over to, you know, like your company, you know, a freemium SaaS. Like it's just like how do you get that brand reputation out of however many people are in your space, you know, and that's where you have to get really creative and think about a totally different way. Maybe it's adding different type of content, you know, maybe you're not talking to them every so often, maybe it's more on activity level. And I really
Right.
like that strategy you got going. So that's just kind of agency life is, hey, this is working really good over here, but hey, we got to figure out something over there. So
Yeah. Cool. So to end, how would you say, like, um, people, maybe early marketing automation folks, can learn faster, like these types of process, like you talked about sticking to the right process, right? So what can
yeah.
people do to learn that process, like a better process? Because actually, and let me put some context behind this, one thing that I realized, I had somebody ask me a couple weeks ago if there were any like marketing automation books. Like he's a student and he was trying to get in, and he was like, what, who, like, do you have any suggestions? And unfortunately he asked the wrong guy, because I don't read enough books anyways. Like I just don't read books, so I feel bad for him. But as I started thinking about it, I was like, I felt like and I should probably do a better job looking for following, but as I've looked at in my marketing automation world, I felt like the conversation is completely dominated by brands,
Mhm.
which by default is pushing us to use more of their tech. And the danger in that is is that you get too fascinated with the tech and you lose sight of because just like in any software, the more you use it, right, then the higher are the odds to retain. But what I think that does is that, like, it starts building bad habits in certain pieces. One of them, for example, is like Eloqua did a really good job talking about how to nurture people. And before I knew it, I was building these crazy complex flows
Yeah.
that I feel so bad for the dude that took my job after I left Franklin Covey,
Yeah.
because even though I documented it, man, that thing was a beast
Yeah.
and it was way too much. And so I used it, but it was not good at the end of the day. So that's kind of the context for the question. How can people go about actually learning healthy automation processes that aren't, I mean, not all the stuff that the brands say is wrong or bad. Like there's a ton of good stuff, but it's tainted a little bit. So how can they make sure they're building a good process?
Yeah. So I had two thoughts come to mind when you were talking, and like what I would say what you made there at Franklin Covey wasn't bad at all, because it was good in the time. It just wasn't nimble, right? It's like this thing of like, I'm like, you can ask my coworkers. I love analogies. So it's almost like making a tank, right? It's like if you made a tank, you're not going to take that down because you spend a lot of time on it, right? But if you made like an army of cars, just little itty bitty, like, or almost like mopeds, you know, like then you can take a couple out of commission, soup them
Yep.
up, and then make them better, and then test and optimize these ones. Whereas you're never going to touch the tried and true big automation. So that's my first piece of advice for any new marketer is to start out small and to scale into success, right? So like just start out small. Hey, look, a four email nurture, and the third email is kicking tail. Everyone's clicking on this button, or everyone's stopping, you know, at this, or depending on your tech, like even open rates. You know, if you're in Mailchimp and you're seeing everybody opens the third email, or everybody opens. And when I say everybody, I mean like if you're getting above I don't know, your list size and everything. But if you're seeing success on an email, there's something about that message that's sparking something within within your contacts. You need to talk more about it and stuff. So starting out small, and then letting the process take you where it needs to take you is the first thing. And the second thing is books. I hate books. No, I don't hate books. But I'm like you. I'm like,
You're like me, man.
like, let alone to spend money on a book just is like college, and it's like PTSD, and it's like, wait a second, who's paying me to pay for this book?
Yep.
That, yeah, I don't know. And then to think like now that we have some clients that sell books, and you're realizing, a lot of it goes to publishing companies, which is not a bad thing, but a lot of it does. So it's like, go straight closest to the person. Like, like if I want to learn about how you do marketing automation, I'd go sit right next to you and be like,
Yep.
oh, why do you do what we do? So, and the closest you can get to an automation person without like straight up talking to them like this is probably a newsletter, to some trusted sources. Litmus is a great one. TechCrunch. If you're an SEO person, you'd probably hear of like Neil Patel. You'd hear of Rand Fishkin. You'd hear of like Search Engine Journal, SEO Land. Like, you have like a ton of different places of these professionals that are in the industry. Like, you're out of school, you're doing learning like the marketing concepts. Now learn about where like the rubber hitting the road, and like where it's working, where it's not. Um, anyways, yeah, just
Cool.
keep your finger on the pulse. Sign up for a lot of good newsletters. TechCrunch is one of my favorites because they just have good writers that make it feel like you're talking to someone, like eating lunch, not
Yeah.
like just not like a Roman general, like, oh, to my masses. This is like, hey bud, this is what you need to do. So TechCrunch is a good one. Litmus is a great one. And then like some of these email service providers like MailChimp, HubSpot. Oh my goodness, I forgot HubSpot. HubSpot is just pumping, and I'm talking pumping out content. They are just
Yep.
like, oh, you stubbed your toe that day on your way to a digital marketing agency. We got a blog for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
let's talk about it. You're gonna want to use Band-Aids. So anyways, long story short, like, HubSpot's really good. So yeah, just follow those great like industry leaders.
Cool. Awesome. Well, again, I appreciate the time, man. It's been a really good chat. Hope everybody listening, you found some good lessons out of this. And yeah, we'll kind of call it there, and we'll see you guys next time. So.